If you thought this was grim, wait until you hear how the Black Death made things even worse. Subscribe for more deep dives into history's darkest hours. In the spring of 1315, the sky opened and refused to close. Across much of northern Europe, unrelenting rain drowned the earth. Crops, newly sown, rotted in soggy fields. Grain, the backbone of every meal, failed to sprout. In villages from Ireland to Poland, hope withered alongside wheat. The problem wasn't just the water. Without dry straw, peasants couldn't bed their livestock. Without oats, horses grew weak. Salt roads turned to mud, halting trade. By midsummer, people looked at their shrinking stores and realized winter would be brutal. The famine wasn't a single bad harvest. It was year after year of decay, cold and rot. By the end of 1315, hunger had become a companion in every home. Cattle died in droves. No hay, no pasture. Pigs were slaughtered early to avoid feeding them. Dogs and cats began to disappear. Bark was scraped from trees. Moss was boiled and eaten. Bread, when it existed, was mixed with crushed beans, acorns and sawdust. In cities, the poor lined up outside monasteries for whatever scraps were offered. In the countryside, entire families collapsed into silence, resigned to wait out the famine with empty bellies. Rumors swirled of cannibalism, of parents abandoning children, of nobles hoarding grain. Grain prices tripled. Salt became a luxury. Life narrowed down to one desperate question: what can we eat today? Survival became innovation. Peasants turned to foraging with a vengeance. Nettles, wild garlic, berries. Children learned to dig for edible roots in forest floors. Rivers were combed for frogs, snails, anything with protein. Families set traps for rats and crows. Monks recorded diets made entirely of boiled weeds. Some ground horse bones into powder to add to gruel. Village elders remembered famine herbs, bitter plants with just enough calories to keep you from collapsing. Communities bartered possessions for food, shoes for a loaf, a spinning wheel for a chunk of salted pork. But not everyone survived on wit. Many simply died in silence, leaving behind only sunken graves and a haunting absence at mealtime. The famine didn't just kill, it fractured the very structure of medieval society. Crime surged. Starving men raided farms, even churches. Gangs formed, roaming the countryside for food. Law lost its weight when people feared hunger more than punishment. Some towns enforced curfews, or locked their gates entirely. Mothers abandoned infants on abbey steps. Grave diggers couldn't keep up. Entire villages vanished, deserted huts, tools still hanging on walls. Chroniclers wrote of years without joy, where even weddings and births felt hollow. Faith was shaken. Why would God allow such suffering? Pilgrimages increased, desperate people traveling barefoot for days to beg saints for rain or relief. It wasn't until 1318 that the rains began to fade. The land, exhausted, slowly returned to form. But the people were changed. Between 10% and 25% of the population in some areas had died. Fields had to be resown. Livestock repurchased. Families rebuilt, or vanished. Communities began preserving food more carefully. Farming shifted to hardier crops. The idea of emergency grain stores took hold, and slowly, out of the mud, a more cautious, more resilient Europe emerged. The Great Famine became a grim memory, but one that reshaped how people thought about the land, hunger, and each other.